Could start at any moment. But out of kindness, how about 6:33?
I have 6:33.
All right, let's call to order this joint Board of Health, Finance, and Personnel Committee meeting. It is 6:34 now. No. Public participation.
When I walked in, no one had signed up.
Yeah, there's nobody out there.
And we're live. So someone could call in right now. No, it doesn't work that way. Let's go with approval of minutes then. We have 3 sets of minutes. Everybody's had an opportunity to review them. I'll be looking for a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the Finance Committee meeting minutes from December 6th, 2022.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Darlene?
Okay, Mr. Marcuson?
Yes.
Ms. Morawski?
Yes.
Dr. Weinstein?
Yes.
Dr. Ansel?
Yes.
Ms. Gaffney?
Yes. I make a motion to approve the Personnel Committee meeting minutes from February 6th, 2023.
I'll second that.
Okay, Darlene?
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Morawski?
Yes.
Ms. Ortiz?
Yes.
Ms. Harmon?
Yes.
Ms. Eltop?
Yes.
Ms. Gaffney?
Yes. I make a motion to approve the joint Finance and Personnel Committee meeting notes of March 15th, 2023.
I'll second.
Darlene, sorry.
Ms. Ortiz?
Yes.
Mr. Marcuson?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Harmon?
Yes.
Ms. Eltop?
Yes.
Dr. Weinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Morawski? Yes. Dr. Ansel?
Yes. Ms. Gaffney?
And Ms. Gaffney, I'm sorry.
So I just want to take a moment to point out how impressed I am with Darlene there, because at the very beginning I was waiting for the rest of the names to be called, and she only called the ones for that committee. So you were so on the ball. I was like, okay, there should be more. No, you're right. Thank you very much. On to new and unfinished business. 4A, we have a resolution to reclassify animal control officers within the McHenry County Department of Health Veterinary Public Health Division roster.
So I'll give you just a little bit of a background. Patty very nicely set the stage about a year and a half ago for a step process with her environmental health practitioners. Last year, our officers and some other staff decertified from the union. We moved them into some grades along with the county's levels. And through that, we sort of determined that we do have staff who are working at different levels because maybe they have different experience, different certifications, different backgrounds, and we wanted to put a step process into our officers. So Melissa and I met with Cheryl in Human Resources. We went through the Archer study, the classification program, talked a lot about the different job functions, the different layers of that scoring system, and we determined where we felt the officers should lay from that. So we had to answer a lot of questions there, and it kind of gave you a grade for the animal control officers. We decided animal control officer 1 would be sort of a in-training officer. So they're coming in with very minimal experience. They do have some work experience, as you see in our chart here. They have probably a good 6 to 9 months, maybe even a year, before they're out on their own. They do their animal control officer certification. They have to get euthanasia training. It takes quite a while to start actually doing euthanasias. And then you get into that whole humane investigator. So we have the 1, the 2, and the 3. By the time you're on the 3, you've had 2 levels of ACO certification, which those are national certifications that officers can get. And then you're also starting to train other people on some of the functions that we have for officers. So Cheryl brought up a very good point that why would I have just one lead animal control officer when I could have a couple of potentially ACOs 3 who could help a lot more with training because they have a lot more experience and skill. So that's how we ended up with what we're proposing today. So all of the officers would move to a 5, and there are a couple who meet those education, experience, and training background who would go to a 6. And then potentially over this next year, some could move to a 6, and those 2 who are 6s could finish up the second set of training, take on some more responsibilities, and move to a 7.
Just for clarification, I apologize. The positions are ACO 1, 2, and 3, but the grades are 5, 6, 7. Is that right?
Yes.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, not at all. It doesn't affect the budget in any way, shape, or form significantly, does it?
Not significantly. There is a bit for the end of the year, and next year, obviously, there's be that potential for a
Right.
bit more.
Thank you.
And I do feel like it will keep our ACOs around a little bit longer, because we have been losing ACOs. We train them, and then they go to the municipalities and start doing enforcement there, and they're making a lot more money. So it gives them opportunity to stay with us, show we value them, give them more experience, and give them a bit of more money as they move along.
Where it says position number, I'm assuming these are employee ID numbers?
Yes. Well, no, they're position numbers, but each one of those does connect to one of our employees.
Twice, okay.
Even with the possibility of going to a 7, are we anywhere near par with other counties or municipalities?
We might even be a little ahead.
Just to point out, the county did a massive study on where we were with our salaries, and we made significant changes over the last year, and that's what happened is many of those salaries got brought up to average with other municipalities or other counties, or a little bit ahead. So hopefully we've taken care of that in most of the areas across the board.
Did
And
you
we
say, oh, maybe you're about to say.
We had done a study prior to them decertifying, so we knew where they were compared to the other counties, and we were still pretty comparable, maybe slight ahead of some of them. Now, I cannot tell you that we did that this time, but from conversation, I think that we are a little ahead. Good.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the members of the Finance Committee and the Personnel Committee approve our administration's request for reclassifying the animal control officers as presented, and that we recommend the resolution to the full board.
Very well. Do we have a second?
Second.
Darlene?
Ms. Altough?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes?
Ms. Ortiz?
Yes.
Ms. Carmen?
Yes.
Dr. Amsler?
Yes.
Ms. Gaffney?
Yes.
Dr. Weinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Morowski?
Yes.
Mr. Markison?
Yes. Thank you, Director Howell, for your work on that, as well as everyone. So sorry. On to 4B, fiscal year 2024 proposed budget.
Melissa has it pulled up on the screen. As we were sitting here, I caught an error. She caught an error, actually. The total is correct for 2023 budget for fees. I'm sorry, yeah, for the fees. The fee isn't correct, the total is correct for the column for 2023. I missed a 0. It should be 1,530,080.
So we'll get it
Oh.
corrected before the Board of
Yeah.
Health. We just, yeah, our eyeball team.
Yeah, the
total
total
at
at
the
the bottom is correct. So with our projected revenues, we are up about 4%, which is about 181,000 compared to last year. So we've had grants increase, grants decrease, that kind of stuff. So the net effect is a little higher, about 180,000. And 160,000 is coming from our local health protection grant. We had a bump. Expenditures, so we're up about 17%, and this is made up of, there's grant increases, and then there's higher costs of doing business also, lab supplies, cleaning supplies, answering service, all things that have gone up, so we had to increase the budget some. And then there also is some factors that include reclassing of positions, new positions, bilingual pay. There was class and comp increases this year, and then as well as the merit increase of 4% is built into here. And none of these are part of the fiscal year '23 budget, how they set it, and it's set as maintenance from last year. So we've had all these things happen within the last year. TB, again, is slightly higher, and again, we have merit built in there, the 4% merit. Our special funds have remained flat. And then we do have a couple supplementals. There's a personnel change being proposed in nursing. And then Patty has 2 vehicles which she's putting in a supplemental for. And then animal control has, here's our positions, right? It's
Typically
temporary
for
position.
contractual registrar to utilize when we need it during the year, and then a little bit more towards vet services.
And then there will be 2 more coming, and they will be in the packet, the board packet for the month. They're just not complete yet, so we haven't gotten them in here yet. And they will be for 2 personnel positions for environmental.
Reclassification.
Yes, sorry, reclassification.
So I'm wondering if they meant 2 new vehicles or no? Okay. All right, classification. All right.
And then on highlights and goals, Patty had an additional goal that I gave her this year, and she wanted it for next year, so I fixed that. Sure. Just trying to. And then the back part again is, our org chart. I guess, do you have any questions on the highlights and goals?
Do we look at the strategic plan for the whole board and see if anything meshes?
For your highlights and goals?
I mean, I'm just,
I'm processing the question.
yeah, okay, so the county board does, their strategic plan every year about their goals and what they want to accomplish. Do we, as the Board of Health, kind of look at that and then incorporate some of, I'm assuming it was a softball question, sorry. I assume that we do that
So
when it's appropriate.
You'll see in some places, we are cross-referencing back to the county's plan.
Okay,
On the highlights. If it touched or intersects with the county strategic plan, we're making a note of it.
okay.
So like you'll see organizational advancement, social services, strategic plan and social services. So strategic plan could be our strategic plan, but anywhere where you see something like organizational advancement, that is the county's plan.
Okay,
So we do try,
Did not
and
see
when we
that.
bring resolutions forward also, we try to cross-reference, on that second page where it asks about does it align with the county strategic plan? And then we try to reference the part of the strategic plan that is.
I mean, I think we tried to incorporate several of the recommendations that the health department placed in front of us, so I just want to make sure that we're kind of back and forth with that.
And if you have
so
any
that people know.
suggestions, or after this, you want to reach out and you want us to repackage it a little before it goes to the county, we can do that.
Any questions or concerns?
I got a question, or a comment, actually. As I read this, the proposed budget for 2024 is $8,593,845, of which $5,112,483 will be raised by fees, licenses, fines, etc., grants. sources other than property tax,
Correct.
leaving leaving a balance to the property tax of $3,481,462, which reflects 41% of the total department budget, meaning 59% comes from other sources. Is there any other department in this county that comes anywhere close to generating that much of their own revenue in comparison to property tax?
And, you know, I haven't gone to look at the other budgets for a while, so I don't know if you know off the top of your head.
I'm going to say just other departments that collect fees. I mean, again, circuit clerk, county clerk, probably recording. I mean, anybody that has the availability of charging for services rendered probably has a higher, revenue match, but in general, probably not.
I mean, there probably are some departments, like planning and development, they have a number of grants, DOT has a number of grants, so there are some others, but how they compare and what percentage of their budget is supported by the tax levy versus those other fines, fees, grants, that I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but it's certainly something we could try to, look at, because I think it's an interesting question, because I feel like we really try to lower that tax levy, and this is just the projected budget, right? Last year, I think when we looked back, it was much lower. In actuality, when we did our annual report, that draw was much lower.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Oh, I was just curious with the vehicles, are we looking like to, I know with Illinois doing a lot more reimbursement for the electric vehicles, are we working on that?
So we're smiling because it feels like deja vu. We just had this conversation with the county when we sat down with them to review our budget. These are not electric vehicles. I think, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I think it's still a couple of years out is my understanding. Because the infrastructure doesn't exist yet to support those vehicles.
Oh, in McHenry County?
Correct.
Okay.
In the McHenry County fleet, I believe. So they are going to be traditional gas vehicles that we're replacing. We lost a few.
Right, so we've lost one, so it was taken out of service. But I also have more field staff than I have vehicles. So we've been working on it for a couple of years, really, to try to get the number of vehicles up to the staff that need to be in the field.
And just a reminder, those supplementals are a request, highly suggested on our part, but not guaranteed.
On the topic of electric vehicles, near and dear to my heart because I'm a nerd for all that stuff. I will point out too, the Village of Schaumburg recently just advertised in the paper that they are purchasing their first 3 electric vehicles, one for police and 2 for public works, I think, along with charging stations. And in the real world, I mean, it's really just an electrician puts in a 240 outlet and you plug in. So based on the mileage that the vehicle, that's all it's about. How many miles a day before it can charge at night. And the maintenance is outstanding because there's none. So obviously we're kind of bored, maybe it's a couple of years from that, but it's.
There's a plan. It's about money. It's
Yeah.
always about money.
Wasn't
there-
Everything's about money.
But
But there is a plan and there is grants that have been filed. We just haven't heard anything, but there's availability of grant dollars. So, yeah, but the intent is to move in that direction, obviously.
Would be great.
Part of our strategic plan.
Yeah, because didn't
Love
the
it.
governor just bring out there, I remember hearing on the radio about grants and money being released that was going to be taken and used for more electric charge vehicles.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
It's again, putting in the infrastructure and getting it up and running before we have the vehicles.
You
So
can
that
show the
we can-
hybrids, though.
You can get a hybrid. and you
I-
don't have to
Way above
rewrite.
my pay grade, but I can tell you, there's a commitment by the board to pursue and to kind of transfer over to electric vehicles whenever possible.
I would, just again, the nerd in me, I would always recommend in this case, hybrids are great, but if you're gonna do it, just go wait the year and go all electric, because then you just remove that engine completely, all the maintenance. My wife's got an electric car now. I changed all the oils from my whole life, all that stuff, brake pads, nothing. It's great. Anyways, enough about
We don't have to change brake
I want
pads.
to-
And we will never do that for police cars, just so you
a
know.
lot less,
Mm.
because it depends on electric
Does you
brake.
need brakes?
Yeah,
Because,
just keep going.
Well, they can go with horses, you know.
oh, I have another, sorry, another question. Penny, I'm just wondering, because, I know when looking at, like, we do a lot of testing with the wells, private wells, but is it our also responsibility to test, like, our waterways? Because I know, like, my intern was, he's done some studies lately on the waterways in McHenry County have a lot more plastic in it than other waterways in the rest of the state, and I don't know if this is like something that like would ever be like an initiative or part of a goal, something with our environmental health and our.
Sure, so waters of the state is an environmental issue, but it's not typically an environmental health issue. Is it? Yes, but it it's really overseen by the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency, Bureau of Water. So we work with them, fairly frequently when we have issues. We'll meet on sites, we'll do those types of things. But we've been involved in initiatives before, Fox River testing, et cetera. And I know that there's a lot going on in those areas, but we are not directly involved at this point in time.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? If not, I'll be looking for a motion on 4B, fiscal year 2024 proposed budget, to accept or recommend to the full board.
Defer to a finance committee member to make the,
I will make a motion to approve what?
Do it.
So a finance committee member would be Juliana, Dr. Amsler, or Dr. Weinstein.
Oh, not me.
I'll make a motion to recommend to the board, the budget as written.
We have a motion. We have a second, thank you, Darlene.
I'm sorry, who made the first?
That would be Juliana and Dr. Weinstein for a second.
Okay. Dr. Amsler?
Yes.
Mr. Markison?
Yes.
Ms. Morowski?
Yes.
Dr. Weinstein?
yes.
Okay. Executive session, looks like we have, you're looking for a motion to go to executive session
I'll make that motion.
to discuss personnel matters.
This is for the.
Is this for the personnel committee or for?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion on the table, wait a second.
Second.
Second with Cindy.
Are we back? Okay.
Okay, no?
Oh, not yet.
Ready? Okay. We have, this is a return to the regular session of the joint Finance and Personnel Committee meeting for the Board of Health. It is 7:42. First up, or what's remaining, is approval, 6A, approval of minutes for the February 6th, 2023 executive session.
Do you need us to say who's still in open session? We do at the county board, I'm just asking, everybody does it different,
I
I'm
just
just
assume because
asking.
we're on video now, but that's a good question. Do you want us to say who we are?
You can,
Who's
sure.
back in the room?
Yeah.
Pamela Altough.
Joe Clark.
Laura Bavensler.
Cecilia Carmen.
Kyle Markison.
Julie Morowski.
Eric Weinstein.
Lupe Ortiz.
Cindy Gaffney. Melissa Adams.
Do you have to say your names? Okay.
They'll appear in the minutes.
Melissa Machado.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes from the committee meeting from February 6, 2023, and release them to the public.
I second.
Darlene?
Okay. Ms. Altough?
Yes.
Ms. Ortiz?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Carmen?
Yes.
Ms. Morowski?
Yes.
Okay. Be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Seconded.
First and second.
There's always a lot of competition.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're
Thank
adjourned
you.
at 7:43.
Nice.